It is time, the time is now. Here we go. Now we'll get a crowd. Okay. How exciting, what a lovely day it is. I have great respect for people who stand up here at Speaker's Corner. I have very little respect for the hecklers. Unless they're you. If they're real people who like to heckle and ask questions, real questions, I'm delighted with that. But if it's like those blackguards that are going around there just trying to get the laugh, trying to get the attention for themselves, trying to jeer the speaker. I was here a couple of weeks ago. I teach voice at Florida State University. And I come here with my students and at the French Grande École. And some of my French students are here. And some of my American students are here. So we normally come with a dozen Americans. And they come and speak. They have to do this as part of my course. I insist that they come to Speaker's Corner, and I know it's a terrifying prospect. And from the first moment they see it in the syllabus, they are worried. And then they hear about it from other students, and they're more worried. And then they see some of the videos we made on YouTube, and they're more worried. And I really respect them. And they always beg me, don't do this to us, Gerry, don't do this to us. But then when they've done it, they say, thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this. It's the best thing we did in our whole time in London. But I have to admire them greatly because they're young students. And because they're young, they're women mostly, beautiful women like Michelle here. They are not the typical speaker. They're not ranting and raving about some sort of fundamentalism. So what happens is everyone comes to them and starts to attack them because they're easy prey. They're easier than the professionals because they're just young people. And they're American, so they get all the crap that goes on for what their government does. So I want to dedicate something to them. Today I'm going to speak at length because today I just have one student, a lovely lady. I'll introduce her in a moment. And I dedicate, well, her name, I'll introduce her now. Her name is Michelle. Michelle is an interesting person because her name isn't even Michelle, it's Jennifer, but she calls herself Michelle. And her second name is Bomalaski, which is an explosive surname. And Michelle, what will I say about Michelle? She missed, the last day she was on an activities thing in Wales. That's why she didn't do this with the group, so she has to come and do it on her own today. But it's lovely because it gives me an opportunity to come on Easter Sunday. And later on I'll be talking about life, about death really. That's going to be my theme today, is death. And my question to you today is death part of the cycle of life, or is life part of the cycle of death? Today is Easter Day, so I won't be preaching a Christian message, but it's a good day to think about death and life. So that's what I'll be doing, but that's after Michelle. Now Michelle I admire for one reason. I think she's one of the bravest students. She doesn't feel brave now, but she always takes me on. She's one of the very rare students who contradicts me in class and who tells me I'm wrong sometimes and will not agree with my point of view. Now, some teachers hate that, but I love that. I love somebody who has the nerve to stand up to the high professor and say, no, no, no. And sometimes she just gives me a look. And I know she doesn't like what I'm saying. She doesn't agree, and it goes against her values. But then she'll stand up and tell me what her values are. And that's what she's going to do here today. So, I don't know whether you know the presidents of America. Well, one of the finest was Roosevelt. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. But there was another Roosevelt before him, Theodore. Theodore Roosevelt was president in the very early part of the 1900s. And he came to France, he came to the Sorbonne, and he gave a speech there, a big speech. But there was one little paragraph in that speech that is tremendously powerful. And it's a perfect tribute to all these people, not the hecklers, but the people who have the nerve to stand up in front of you all and be naked and be heckled and be, I'm not going to be naked, I promise, and vulnerable. So this is what he says, and I agree with these sentiments entirely, and that's why it's because of feeling like Roosevelt does that I bring my students here. You may have heard it before because it's a very famous piece, but it's a great privilege. If you haven't, it's a great privilege for me to introduce you to this. It was spoken by Roosevelt at the Sorbonne on the 23rd of April, 1910. And it's as fresh as the day he said it. And this is what he says. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man and woman who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Let's give a round of applause to Theodore Roosevelt. So I dedicate that to all the students that I've taken here. I've frightened the lives out of them. I dedicate it to the good speakers here, and there are some, and I dedicate it to the good hecklers. I now give you Michelle Jennifer Bomalaski. Separate recording for that.